you are a Zayden Ryerson stan, are you in the right place? I'm not sure. But besties, we are halfway through the year, so that officially means it is time to do the mid-year book tag. We are going to talk about the best of the best, the worst of the worst, the most surprising, the most disappointing, and all of the bookish milestones so far in 2025. Welcome back to my channel. I have been gone for a hot minute. I am so bad at YouTube, you guys. Like, I literally just can't help it. As much as I love to yap, for some reason I can't bring myself to like yap in front of a horizontal camera. I just don't know what it is. But today we are doing our mid-year book tag. I got this idea from Mariana, who I think got it from Larry. I have never done a book tag before, but this is a list of questions that you're supposed to do sort of to check in. I was supposed to do one at the beginning of the year or maybe the end of last year, an end of year book tag. Didn't do that. I'm not on any sort of organizational thing. I am an Aries, so I am on the go, constantly getting done, but I am also perpetually behind on every single thing that I'm supposed to do. So we're gonna do the mid-year book tag. This is honestly one of the funnest videos that I think I've ever done. And I love that I just have a set of like interview questions ready for me. And I might offend some people with my bookish opinions per usual, but you know, you get what you get when you come here. If you are a Zayden Ryerson stan, are you in the right place? I'm not sure. I also just recently got my nails done. I was watching Mariana's book tag and she showed off her chrome nails, and I had mine done today for a conspiracy night. So we're actually having a book bestie conspiracy night where we are presenting our favorite conspiracy theories, and then an audience is going to vote on which ones we convinced them were actually real. Spoiler alert, all the conspiracies are real, you guys. I told my person to do whatever she thought was giving like conspiracy vibes. So she went with sort of like a metallic space vibe. If you're into conspiracies, let me know if you want to come to Conspiracy Night Part 2. This one's already full, but I feel like we're leaving off a lot of good conspiracies. No one's doing Britney Spears, no one's doing Avril Lavigne, no one's doing flat earth. Like, hello, the like biggest ones out there. Like, someone please convince me the earth is flat. No one's been able to do it so far. Tell me what you got. Anyway, we're going to get into the mid-year book tag with question number 1, which is the best book that you have read so far in 2025. This one was really, really hard because I feel like there are 2 books, but thankfully one of the other books fits in another category. So I'm gonna have to say that the best book I have read so far in 2025 is Blood and Betrayals by Jeanette Rose and Alexis Rune. Now this one is a thick one. This is 1,026 pages. Wait, actually, we've been having a debate, okay? So apparently there is a Kindle version of this book that is only 730 something pages, and I was shook because I was like, I read 1,026 pages, and I think every single page was worth it. So I'm really worried about the people who are only reading. What the heck? This is 692 pages. Guys, on my Kindle, I read 1,026 pages of Blood and Betrayals. This bad boy right here is 702 pages. What? So what are we missing? If you have an answer for that, that's been driving me crazy because I read 1,000 pages and Kindle doesn't change the page numbers based on like the size of your font. So like according to Kindle, I read 1,026 pages and I felt like I read 1,026 pages. So what is this? Okay, anyway, the best book that I have read so far in 2025 is Blood and Betrayals. Now this was giving Zodiac Academy mixed with Ruthless Boys of the Zodiac, mixed with Nocticadia, plus like extra emotional damage at the end of this book. You are not ready for the end of this book. I thought I was ready. I had a hunch about what was going to happen. I was like, no way they're going to do that to us. They did. I'm actually now officially scared of these authors. But this is a dark academia. It's more gothic feeling than Zodiac Academy. So it's got a little bit more of a dark and broody, creepy vibe. Zodiac Academy is a little bit more like modern day. She's listening to Eminem in her earbuds. This is also modern day, but it is a little bit more spooky and gothic vibey feeling instead of just like sort of a CW TV show, sort of like comedy. There is some comedy in here. I would say Zodiac Academy is probably a little funnier. This is a little darker. And I am not sure where we're going with the romance. I ate this up. I read 1,026 pages. I felt like all 1,026 pages were necessary. The character development, the world building, the relationships, and the emotional like preparation that you get in the first 3/4 of this book so that the authors can literally rip your heart out at the end is completely necessary. I loved it. I ate it up. It didn't feel long, but like that's what I was so impressed about. I was like, it's 1,026 pages and I don't feel like it was super long and drug out. And I get really mad at people saying, did this book need to be 1,000 pages long? Yes. Unpopular opinion, yes it did. Because I don't like a surface level reveal at the end. Like, this has some emotional damage at the end of the book. And I feel like if the book had been 300 pages, that's just truly not enough time to get you emotionally invested, attached, feeling good, feeling any sort of feelings so that like your heart gets ripped out at the end. If there's some big plot twist or emotional thing that happens at the end of a book and I don't feel like I know the characters, why would I care? Why would I care? I need a good, like, at least a good like 500 or 600 pages to feel like I'm actually embedded in the world, care about the characters. Like, if you're gonna do something tragic at the end of a book, I'm not gonna care if I haven't been immersed into the world. And I feel like these authors did a really good job of fully immersing me in the world. Now, I haven't told you anything about the book or why I liked it. So we have an MMC in here who's giving Leon Knight from Ruthless Boys of the Zodiac. He is a golden retriever, green flag. Everybody, you can't not love Leon Knight. And there is also, though, another person in here called The Stranger, and he is literally like a sort of ethereal, shadowy, blurry being. We don't know what he looks like, and why that is so hot to me, I don't know. Like, we don't, clearly he's a supernatural shifter person. Of course he's going to be attractive, like whatever. But we don't even know what this man looks like. We have Leon Knight, green flag, golden retriever, book boyfriend that you're going to fall in love with whether or not you want to. You're going to, it's mandatory. But then we have The Stranger who's giving like Professor Orion mixed with Zayd Meadows, okay? He's stalking her, literally. Like, what more could you ask for? This was a great and terrible time, and that is why it is the top read of 2025. Following that up with question number 2, which is the worst book you've read so far in 2025. This is where I might make a few enemies, and at this point, I don't think I care anymore. I don't know. I've been bullied so much about this that I don't care anymore. The worst book that I have read so far in 2025 is gonna have to be Onyx Storm. Look, sorry, not sorry. Now, let me tell you, everybody comes in and tries to write my narrative for me. And they're like, oh, you just don't like it, so you're gonna it no matter what. No, I liked Fourth Wing. I genuinely liked Fourth Wing. I did not like the romance or the MMC in Fourth Wing. He was vanilla and disappointing and boring. But I loved the dragons. I loved the story. I loved the pacing. Fourth Wing was like a 4-star read for me, okay? I also liked Iron Flame because it felt a little bit like it was going into the high fantasy vibe. We're getting a little bit more depth, but I did not thoroughly, I actually truly didn't like Onyx Storm. It was hard for me to read. I was so excited. I picked it up, and yes, I read Iron Flame immediately before I read Onyx Storm. So yes, I knew what I was reading. I did a recap. I didn't need to go back and reread. I literally was fresh out of Iron Flame before I read Onyx Storm, okay? So I read this on the plane, or I downloaded it on the plane, and I had a hard copy waiting for me at home. I paid full price for the Kindle edition. I was ready and excited to support this book. It just wasn't good in my opinion. Does it mean it's a bad book overall? No, this is not a blanket statement saying that this is a bad book that no one should read. My opinion is that I don't think the writing was fluid and made sense and was well done in a way that made it flow. This was just like not the vibe for me. And a lot of people like to come back and argue like, well, Onyx Storm is for the vibes. Like, I had a good time reading it, so that means it was good. The way that this was written and the way that it was laid out, the order of events, the like 5,000 characters that all feel like the same character, the new characters, introducing people by their last name, randomly calling them by their first name, all of that took away from the vibes for me. So yes, you absolutely can enjoy Onyx Storm for the vibe. I am a vibes reader. I love Zodiac Academy, okay? Like, do with that what you will. This was distracting. It was distracting. That was my problem. Puzzling everything together was done in a way that was so confusing that it was annoying and it was work to read this for me. Does that mean every single person who read this book was confused by it? No. But does it mean that I'm stupid for feeling like the flow was off and feeling like I was like, what the heck is going on? No, it does not mean that either, because we all have a different experience when we read a book. I have been reading high fantasy since I was like 5 years old, okay? I read the entire Lord of the Rings trilogy. I read all of Game of Thrones. Like, I read all of that. I know how a fantasy book looks. Does that make me better or my opinion more accurate? No, but I have a big backlog of fantasy to compare this to. And everybody who's talking about it is saying, you just don't understand fantasy. You just don't get high fantasy. You're just not smart enough to read it. That's absolutely Just not true. I thought the vibes were not vibing in here. I'm so sorry. I'm really tired of people saying, well, just don't read it or don't talk about it if you don't like it. I'm gonna tell you the truth. I'm gonna tell you if I don't like a book. Why would I read a book and then hide my opinion on it? What? What do you want? I review books. I review books. I'm gonna review books I don't like. I'm gonna review books I like, and I'm not gonna sugarcoat and say like, oh, it was fine, like whatever. Like, yeah, you can read it if you want to. Yeah, you can like it if you want to. That doesn't mean I have to like it. And it doesn't mean my opinion is incorrect because it's different than yours. It is okay to not like the same books. I can say a book is bad and you can take context clues and realize that I'm saying it's bad in my opinion. I don't think it's necessary for me to come on here and say, in my opinion, I think obviously it's my opinion. I'm not a professional editor, book reviewer, whatever, of clearly I'm coming on here and telling you my opinion. But I come on here and I say, personally, I think the writing is not great in this book. And people like to come and say, oh, well, that's your opinion that the writing is... Yes, it's my opinion that the writing is bad. You asked for my opinion. People bothered me for months to review this book. They said, when are you reviewing Onyx Storm? When are you reviewing Onyx Storm? Y'all asked, and my answer wasn't what you wanted to hear, and I don't know what to tell you about that. This was the worst thing I've read in 2025. Question number 3, the best sequel I have read so far in 2025. I'm so excited that I get to talk about this book, and it was one of my most recent reads. The Echo Fort by Caroline Peckham and Susan Valenti. This is book 2 in the Sins of the Zodiac series. Never Keep was book 1. Echo Fort knocked me. I don't know where it knocked me. I don't know where I was going with that. But this is one of my favorite things that I've read in 2024. I would say that honestly, for question number 1, these two are probably about tied. But I wanted to not put the same book on here twice. So Echo Fort is taking place in the same universe as Zodiac Academy. It's not in Solaria, which I feel stupid. I thought Solaria was a world. Apparently Solaria is a country. But this takes place in a different country, but it is in the same universe and has the same magic system as Zodiac Academy. So where you should read this in the Zodiac Academy reading order, I did already say that in my Zodiac Academy reading order video, which you can find on my channel. I think you should read it last because this is a devolved futuristic society, and chronologically this is happening after the very end of Zodiac Academy. So why would you read it first? Do you need to read Zodiac Academy to read this? No, but if you're going to ask me for what the best experience would be, I think you should read this last. Because there are little Easter eggs in here that you absolutely will not get if you haven't read Zodiac Academy. Will it ruin the story? No. But this is going to have the same magic system as Zodiac Academy. However, I feel like the writing and the way that the world is built and the journey that these authors are taking you on, in my opinion, is done better than Zodiac Academy. I love Zodiac Academy. It's my favorite thing of all time, but I do feel like the sisters have stepped up their game. It feels a little bit more serious and like impactful and deeper, if that makes sense. So this completely blew me away. Never Keep was a 5-star read, 6-star read. Echo Fort was a 5-star read, 6-star read. I cannot wait for Cinder Vale, which is going to be the 3rd book in the series, but this was absolutely the best sequel that I have read this year. All right, our next question on this book tag is the worst sequel I have read in 2025. I really hope that I don't get hate for this one, but I DNF'd, caught up. The first book in the series was Lights Out. I had a great time with Lights Out. I thought it was fun. I personally wanted it to be a little bit darker since people were talking about it as if it was a dark romance. Maybe unpopular opinion, I do not think that that book was a dark romance. It was a dark comedy romance, similar to something like Butcher and Blackbird. It was a fun time. I like a little bit more stakes in my dark romance books. What? I can't even give you a full-fledged opinion on this because I didn't finish the book. I started it, I didn't finish it. I was very disappointed. I don't really have a lot to say about it. It was supposed to be a motorcycle guy, and I feel like the motorcycle was on the back burner. And also this gave a little bit of Mafia vibes, and I personally don't like Mafia. I don't think there's anything wrong with Mafia, but it is always just so boring to me. So maybe that's what was the problem in this, but this was just not it. A new release that I haven't read yet that I want to read. So I am so far behind. This, I still think you could call it a new release, but I was supposed to read it in July and I definitely didn't. The Night and the Moth by Rachel Gillig. Now, number 1, I am so excited to read this. I love Rachel Gillig. One Dark Window and Two Twisted Crowns were like one of my favorite things that I read in 2024, I think. And this is her new series, The Night and the Moth. I heard that it has a little funny, maybe quirky gargoyle side character in it. And if there's one thing about Rachel Gillig, she knows how to write like a fantastical creature that you can't help but fall in love with. It was the Nightmare in One Dark Window and Two Twisted Crowns. I feel like maybe the gargoyle is a little bit lighter of a character than the Nightmare was. And like, did we all sort of collectively kind of have a crush on the Nightmare? Like, be honest. So this one, I haven't heard a single negative thing about. So I feel like it has to at least be a 4-star read, but who knows? I can't wait to read it. It is gothic, spooky vibes. Rachel Gillig is really good at writing the dark gothic fantasy vibes. This does have a romance subplot, but I have heard that the more accurate way to describe this is a fantasy romance, not a romantasy, because the romance is sort of a side quest instead of the main focus of the book. So I'm very excited to read this. I'm so sorry. Everybody is like, when are you going to read The Night and the Moth? When are you going to read The Night and the Moth? I don't know, but I am, and I'm going to give a review at some point. The most anticipated release for the second half of the year is gonna have to be Hollow by the Twisted Sisters. Number one, look at this cover. Look at how this looks. Like, really? Like, how could you not want to read this? Number two, I've never in my life been disappointed by something that Caroline Peckham and Susan Valenti write. I'm so excited. I don't even know what it's about. I know that it's fantasy and fantasy romance, romantasy, and I know that it's gonna be dark and twisted. I think they said enemies to lovers. Otherwise, I literally don't even know what this is about. I saw Twisted Sisters, I saw the cover, I saw dark, and I said, yes, gonna be a 5-star read for me, obviously. I'm so excited. I feel like this book speaks to me. I just know that this is going to be a 5-star read. If I'm wrong, I don't know, but I don't think that I'm wrong. I think this is going to be a 5-star read, and it is something that I have literally been looking forward to since they announced that they were writing it. So I cannot wait to read Hollow. Please let me know if you're going to buddy read with me. I will immediately be reading that in November of this year. So the next question is the biggest surprise of this year, which is going to be the first book I read in 2025, January of 2025. My biggest surprise was this duology right here. Feathers So Vicious, Shadows So Cruel. This is about men who turn into birds, literally. My book bestie tried to get me to read this for months. Like, she kept talking about it, and I was like, seriously? You want me to read that? And she was like, trust me, it's a 5-star. Like, it's super spicy, but also it's like super emotionally damaging. Feathers So Vicious changed my life and changed my entire like thought process when it came to picking out a book. This is 5-alarm chili pepper spicy. It is also a tension-filled enemies to lovers situation. There are 2 men in here. They turn into ravens, but it's not like funny, haha, like, oh, they're birdmen. No, they sort of like combust into a beautiful cloud of ravens. Like, it's pretty, it's artsy, it's not funny. You don't need to laugh at it. This will emotionally damage you. So there is a trigger warning page. You gotta read it. I didn't read it because literally nothing sets me off, but I feel like if something sets you off, you should read this. This is not for the faint of heart. This is not for the light, fluffy readers. This is not a light, fluffy time. I personally wouldn't say it's a happily ever after either. It's wild, and the book boyfriend in here, I will be Team Malir until I'm in the ground. Like, that man changed my book boyfriend ranking. He took, I think he's at spot number 1 or 2 right now. I feel like maybe he's number 1 or 2. And these, honestly, people come back to me and be like, these were so dark that I literally had to DNF, okay? Like, if you don't like dark fantasy romance, if you're not comfortable with dark romance elements, meaning that the dark elements are involved with the romance and with the spicy actions that we're doing, this might not be for you. However, I am quite a messed up emo girly. So I ate this up. I would recommend it to almost everyone who doesn't have like a threshold for darkness, and this was my biggest surprise. This literally changed my life. This is a completed duology duet about men that turn into birds that will emotionally damage you and change your life. So the next question is my favorite new author. It can either be a debut author or an author that is new to me. And an author that was new to me this year was Miss Eliza Reign. This also could have been like second place for my biggest surprise. Look how tiny this book is, but it feels like you've read an epic like fantasy romantasy book at the end of it, and this is a completed trilogy, the Flame Cursed Fae series. I was like, girl, I will read anything Eliza Reign writes now. So apparently she's got some books that were written before this. I gotta go back and read the entire catalog. So the reason that I feel like Eliza Reign is going to take the title of newest favorite author is because she doesn't overwhelm with length or denseness or like world building that is unnecessary. She gives you literally, I don't know how she knows, but she gives you exactly what you need to understand, feel immersed in, and care about the world and characters that you're in, and that's it. She doesn't give you any BS. The MMC's obsessed. At least the one in here, his name is Kane. He is just like morally gray, grumpy dude, red flag, like everything I love. And he has like long kind of ashy silvery hair. He's just giving, he's a Valkyrie. Crazy. Eliza Reign, like, she writes to the point, fast-paced, entertaining, slow burn romance and tension. She also doesn't like give you exactly what you're looking for spice right out the gate. She makes you wait for it. She makes you earn it. And it is so worth it once you get to it. And I was sweating. Not this book, book number two. Book number two, I was sweating. Oh my goodness. The way that Eliza Reign writes spice and romance and slow burn and tension is kind of just exactly what I'm looking for. So Eliza Reign was just like meant for me. We vibe. I love it. I love everything. So if you haven't read anything by Eliza Reign yet, if you're looking for fast paced, but also like crazy tension, slow burn, immaculate spice, you're gonna need to check her out. The next question is, who is your newest fictional crush? Now, I don't know what this is gonna say about me, but the people who get it are gonna get it. Kaiser from Sins of the Zodiac. I'm sorry that I'm having to use a book and series twice, but Kaiser is like, I don't even know how to describe it. He's got some sort of affliction that turns his emotions off. So like, he doesn't even understand good and bad human emotion, and he's like the most unfeeling, red flag, rude MMC. He literally unalives our main character's mom within the first like 20 pages of book one, and I was like, sign me up. That's my man. That is him. Kaiser. I don't know how you say his last name. Brimthian? I don't know. So he's called a Fury, and he feeds off of other people's fears. So he basically creates your worst nightmares, puts them in front of you, can like affect you with them physically, and then he gets his power from feeding off of your terror from his things. And I, for some reason, was like, I'm obsessed. Give me 14 of them immediately.
Spectacular. Give me 14 of them right now.
So Kaiser, unfeeling, masochistic, like crazy guy, and he literally is in the running for my like top 5 book boyfriends. Now he does get he gets a little bit of character development in book 2. He's not going to be unfeeling forever. Like, we know that, right? We know, I mean, I don't know. But the end of this book had me shedding a tear for this crazy psycho man. So I'm in it. You gotta meet Kaiser. If you watch the Vampire Diaries, when they turn their humanity off, that's exactly what we're dealing with. So it's giving like a mixture between Damon and Stefan, both of which have their humanity turned off. Maybe a little bit of Klaus. He's kind of giving Klaus with his humanity turned off. There we go. Sorry, it took me a minute to get there because he's not as funny as Damon. He's not as like obnoxiously broody as Stefan. He's a mixture, which would be Klaus Michelson. So Klaus Michelson, girlies, Kaiser's your man. A book that made you cry. Now there were a few. I wanted to sort of keep this in the fantasy, romantasy realm, and I was surprised that this kind of got me in my feels. Shield of Sparrows, the last 100 pages were like an emotional roller coaster. And this is another book, another example of there is enough world building and connection, character, relationship developments that when things happen at the end of the book, you care. I cared, and I was like, what is happening to me right now? I was reading this on my couch. I had to step away so that my husband wouldn't see me cry, and I was getting the glistening eyes. Like, this one just shocked me. I had to put this on here because I did not expect to have an emotional reaction to this. Like, it's really hard to emotionally affect me in a book. Usually it happens with like a contemporary romance, or this was the most surprising book that got an emotional reaction out of me. I didn't see it coming. The plot twists were not only jaw-dropping, they were also sad. And that's just like my favorite mixture, is like a plot twist that has my jaw on the floor, but also gives me like a physical emotional reaction. If you haven't read Shield of Sparrows yet, like, this is another one of my favorite things that I've read this year. There is world building in it. You have to read the book. You have to, want to go on a journey with these characters, get to know and get attached to, and watch the heck out. So the next question is a book that made me happy. I don't know if this is weird that this book made me happy, but Enchantra was just a good old time, okay? So Enchantra is one of those books. It's a standalone in a series of interconnected standalone. The first book was Phantasma. Phantasma's a little darker, but this one, I wouldn't call it surface level, but it was just a good time. It was a good time. There's nothing too deep, too emotionally damaging. The man in here has a lip ring, like absolutely. He was doing it for me. There's some like dirty talk. There's some good girl in here. There's, everything that we like. But it wasn't so serious. It just like I finished and I was like, that was a good time. Like I had a fun time. I'm not sad. I'm not emotionally damaged. While I love to be emotionally damaged, sometimes I just want like a hot man and like an epic romance and a standalone, which is exactly what this is. Nothing crazy, not life-changing, but overall just like a really good time. And I was generally happy and smiley and like, I closed the book and I was like, yeah. When I finished that. So that's going to be the book that made me happy. And personally, my 6-star reads, unfortunately, are going to be books that don't make me happy. So this one was really hard to find. The next question is the most beautiful book I've bought or received this year. Technically, I bought it, but I also received it because it came in a subscription box, which it was either Book of the Month or Fairy Loot. I'm not sure. But this one just spoke to me. It's called White Horse Black Knight, and I have had it on my TBR for months because everybody actually says it's really good. So I think it's going to be one of those books that is beautiful, but also like really good. Here's the back of it. I actually just love the color scheme. I love the sprayed edges. I love that our man has like a half up man bun going on. That's like my new favorite thing. Not just a man bun, but a half up man bun. And I don't know, I just feel like this is really pretty. It's all of my favorite colors, purple, blue, and gold together. So this, not really a lot to say about this. I haven't read it yet. I will let you know if it is as beautiful on the inside as it is on the outside. Okay, so the last question is arguably the hardest question on here. It is, what books do you need to read by the end of the year? Now, if you look around me, look at that. Look at that. That's not even all of the books on my physical TBR. So clearly I'm not going to show you all of them, but I am going to pick out a few that I like absolutely really have to prioritize before the end of the year. The number one series that I absolutely like, I'm excited to read it because I've heard it is severe emotional damage. I don't have the first one, but I already got the second too because I'm so sure that the trilogy is going to be like a 7-star read. The Insatiable series by Lee Rivers. I'm going to put the first book right here, but I've heard that people have mental breakdowns, like sad breakdowns over this book. And that's honestly all it takes for me to want to put a book on my TBR. One thing about me is I will read anything if I hear that it's going to emotionally destroy my life, which is all that I've ever heard about this. I've heard that the like romance and the emotional damage and the plot is top tier. So I will absolutely be reading the Insatiable series by Lee Rivers. Let me know who wants to buddy read with me. Should we make this a book club book? Should we make Insatiable a book club book? Because like we've been reading fantasy romance like the whole time, but like, are you guys interested in a dark romance? Let me know. Up next we have The Poisoner. Now this is another book that I've literally never heard anybody say anything bad about. I think this is vampires. Otherwise I really don't know what it's about. But I have been told over and over and over again that I need to read The Poisoner. So we will be reading The Poisoner. I'm kind of like on my vampire streak again. I'm rewatching The Vampire Diaries. I went to a Vampire Diaries convention. If a book says it's got spicy vampires in it, it's immediately for me. And I feel like The Poisoner is one of the like higher rated. I hope this actually has vampires in it and I'm not just saying that and you guys are like, what are you talking about? That's not a vampire book. I could read the back right now, but I want to go in blind. Whatever. I'm pretty sure it's vampires. If it's not, I'm wrong and it's still going to be a good book because I do know this is the book that people have been telling me is really good. So we're going to read it regardless. So a really controversial book that I am very excited to read. Number one, because it's controversial, but number two, because the reason it is controversial is because people think it's too dark in some elements. Now I'm going to explain. But Firebird by Juliet Cross has me so curious because I have heard people say that this is too dark for them in the way that it has a sort of servant master relationship going on in here, and it's based off of like the Roman Empire, the Roman politics, Roman something, whatever. I don't actually know what I'm talking about because I haven't read this, but that's what I've heard. It's not the like servant master that today would be very offensive. It is a different setting, a different time period where unfortunately that was a normal thing that happened. This is also fantasy though. This is fantasy romance. And I have heard so many conflicting things. Number one is that people think that this is like not appropriate. And number two, people who seem to be more like me, who enjoy like a darker romance, a dark fantasy romance, the darkness being a part of the romance, those people seem to really enjoy this book, and they do not agree that it is inappropriate for the type of book that it is. Now, this is fiction. This is also fantasy. This is not people should go out and live their lives the way that things are happening in this book. It's not that. I'm not condoning any actions that happen in here, and I haven't even read this yet. However, I will read a dark fantasy romance that has uncomfortable subject matter in it, and I will have a decent time, okay? Now, if you have something to say about that, whatever. You don't have to read this book. I'm going to read this book. I have free will, and I personally, I kind of feel like I'm going to like it, and I'm a little scared to tell people. I've read Feathers So Vicious, okay? I've read Feathers So Vicious. It cannot be worse than Feathers So Vicious. So I feel like I'm going to read this and potentially either really love it or I'm going to be disappointed because I'm expecting something pretty dark, and then there's no way it's as dark as the Court of Ravens duology. But we're going to read Firebird before the end of 2025, and I'm going to tell you what's going on. So one of the newest books that is popping off right now that I need to add to my TBR, specifically because the author is local to my area, Brittany Arena, A Dance of Lies by Brittany Arena. I have heard weird. I don't even know what I've heard about this. I've heard some people really like it. Some people really don't like it. That's normal for a fantasy book, but I'm super interested. I got the Bookish box, the special edition. So I love a pretty book, but this is interesting to me. I feel like I need to read it to sort of know what everybody's talking about. I feel like it's a very topical book right this second. So I'll probably add it to my August TBR. But there's not really a reason that I have to read this before the end of 2025 other than I literally feel like I have to, and the author is one of the nicest people. I watched her interview Danielle L. Jensen, and I really liked her, so I want to support her and I want to read her book, and I need to read it before the end of 2025. Now, this next book is going to come way out of left field, okay? This is not like anything else I have ever shown you, but I have had The Last Letter by Rebecca Yarros on my TBR for over a year at this point. Like, I gotta read it. I gotta read it before the end of 2025, and let me tell you, or let me let you guess why this is on my TBR. Because the reviews that I've seen are people seriously, like legitimately sobbing over the end of this book. And for some reason, when I see that, I say, I have to read that. I have to read that. So I have to read this. Now, I'm really scared that I'm gonna figure out how unfeeling and emotionally like unavailable I am when I read this, because I'm afraid that I'm gonna read it and I'm gonna turn the page on the last page and I'm not going to have had any sort of emotional reaction. That will really disappoint me, and it will also make me like question my entire personality. So that might be the reason that I've put this off for so long, because I'm holding like emotional stakes really high on this one. This is supposed to be super, super heartbreaking. I love her contemporary romances. I think Rebecca Yarros excels at a contemporary romance, and a contemporary romance with emotional damage. So I will be reading this. Hopefully I will cry. That's a weird thing to hope for, but I really hope this destroys me. Last up is a book that I literally just got, and I am feeling like it's going to be the next thing to sort of like blow up in the bookish community, and it is The Silver Smith by L.J. Claren. Now, number one, the author is super sweet. However, I wanted to read this book before I met the author. So I saw this, number one, it is my favorite colors. I love turquoise and orange and black. I mean, that's just how it is. A pretty cover is going to get me. That's all there is to it. But this, I feel like I'm hearing a lot of buzz about it. So I need to read it very quickly before anything gets spoiled, or before like no one wants to hear me talk about it anymore. This is a little bit of a peer pressure read. However, I saw the cover, I heard people talk about it, people that I trust on the Book Talk Bookstagram area, and I said, I'm gonna trust you. I'm gonna read this. I'm gonna see how I feel, and I am expecting at least 4 stars from this. So The Silversmith is the newest one, the one that I most recently, literally like 3 days ago, added to my books that I need to finish in 2026 pile. So this is also potentially a good one for book club. So let me know if anybody else has seen this floating around, if you're curious about it, if you want it to be part of the book club, maybe we can make that happen. So that is my mid-year 2025 book tag. That is what has been going on, what I have been reading, how I've been feeling. Let me know what you think about some of my choices. Are you offended by Onyx Storm? Are you offended by Court of Ravens? Are you offended by Rebecca Yarros? I don't know. Like, what was your most disappointing read? Oh, I want to know everyone's new fictional crush, because Kaiser is someone that I think everyone needs to meet, especially if you like a red flag MMC. So tell me your favorite, newest obsession with a romantasy, dark romance, fantasy, whatever, book boyfriend, book girlfriend, crush. We do not judge over here. I will read about an FMC. I will read FF. I will read MM. I don't care who it is. If it changed your life, I want to know who it is. So let me know who I need to add to my book boyfriend, book girlfriend roster, and I'll check them out. Let me know if you like the mid-year book tag. Do you want another book tag at the end of the year with a different but similar set of questions? And how similar are our opinions? I'll see you next time for my July reading wrap up, which is quite a doozy. So come back for that. And yeah, I will see you next time.